we have Nick. Okay, now Nick's ex-wife has alienated their 2 children from him since their divorce quite a few years ago. So Nick is a life code 6. Okay, pop him there. Now Nick very much wants a healthy relationship with his children. Okay, so his children are, we have 3 people involved. So we have Irina, who is a life code 9. Okay, now I've got Irina as someone who's really quite angelic, but we'll come to that in a moment. Okay, and then we also have Andre, who's a life code 4. Okay, so we'll pop Andre there. Okay, so we've got 3 people involved. As I said, I'll speak in a moment as to why we've got the angelic daughter, even though initially it might mean that when we're looking at this in straight away, why is she angelic? Well, we'll have a little look at that.
Welcome to the Sensitive Mind Show.
Your purpose in life as a sensitive is to experience the deeper parts of the mind, to move beyond fear and to manage your energy, no matter the circumstance. I'm going to show you, as a sensitive, how you can maximize your talents and feel comfortable in your own skin. For show notes and to join the conversation, visit heidisawyer.com/mind. Okay, so what has Nick told us? Okay, so what is his dilemma? What's the situation? After my divorce in 2000, my children have been alienated from me by their mother. My relationship, I thought was on the upswing, has deteriorated after my daughter gave birth. She has shut me and my entire family out of seeing the child. I recently wrote to my daughter and son that I will step away from the relationship until they seek an honest and open communication. My son, who lives with me, was told that he needs to leave in January. Okay, so what's the problem the situation creates? The situation creates a conflict for me. As a parent, I want to be there for my children, but also know I need to take care of myself. I don't feel there is anything I can do at this time. I feel a sense of guilt and abandonment. So what is the question that Nick wants me to answer? What strategy can I put in place to handle this situation to ensure a possible relationship? Okay, so Nick wants to have a healthy relationship with his children, but has been undermined in the past by his ex-wife. So what do we have in terms of these 3 life codes? We have a life code 6, we have a life code 4, and we have a life code 9. So what's the general dynamic between these particular 3 people before we look into this immediate situation? So life code 6, they are used to being the centre of things, the centre of people's worlds, the centre of the dynamics, the central figure in terms of all kinds of things, either positively or negatively. Okay, so they're quite often the focus, so they're the focus point. So life code 6 are the focus point. Now in this particular relationship dynamic, Nick, as that life code 6, has become the central focus, and he has a direct pathway to a life code 9. So 6 and a life code 9 is a direct pathway. Now we have the 27th path, which is between the 7 and the 8, crossing right through the middle of the connection between the 9 and the 6. What does that mean? That means that there is a possible, quite clear conflict between a life code 6 and a life code 9. And that conflict will be a soul development conflict, because these 2 paths cross. It's in this particular area, between the 9 and the 6, where these 2 paths cross, it's a dark night of the soul kind of crossing of paths. What we would interpret as the dark night of the soul, but actually it's quite often the dark night of the ego. So it's quite often a clash of ways of looking at things, perceptions, how things are communicated, or a lack of communication. So we'll see this quite clearly as far as this dynamic is concerned between this life code 6 and this life code 9, which we'll come to in a moment. And we also have a life code 4 within this, and they have a life code 4 has a direct path to a 6. Okay, so again, we have this direct path, but between a life code 6 and a life code 4, there is no direct conflict. Okay, so we have a path here. There's just a path, the 20th path, between the life code 6 and the life code 4. So there isn't a specific conflict or a specific life situation to have to resolve. We've also got a short path. You can look at this in terms of how long is the path. Well, there's a short path between a life code 6 and a life code 4. So if there is conflict, often it's short conflict. It's not over a long period of time. They're more in tune with each other. So a life code 6 and a life code 4 can be quite in tune with each other. There isn't any, you can look at the other life codes and think, well, where have we got these shorter paths? Well, the shorter paths is going to be a little bit less of that whole conflict scenario. Or if there is conflict, it's swift. Okay, it's swift. It tends to be a more of a swift dynamic. So in this scenario, I'm going to say already that how Nick deals with Andre is easier than how Nick is able to deal with Irina. Okay, and we also have a distance between the life code 9 and the life code 4 in terms that there isn't a direct path. So what does that mean? So it means sometimes between a life code 9 and a life code 4, either they get on really well because there's nothing jangled between the two life code numbers, or they feel quite distanced from each other and they act independently of each other. Okay, quite often how you see a dynamic between a 9 and a life code 4. You can also see it though that 9s are they reflect the subconscious. So around a life code 4 who's very much about love, sometimes that can be that the 4 reflects the 9's desire to be loved. But I would say that that's more unusual in a sibling dynamic. So I suspect between these two siblings that they're more independent of each other than they are close together. Okay, so this 9 isn't able to influence this 4 quite as much as perhaps she would like to. Okay, so the 4 will act more independently of that 9, even if that 9 is trying to influence the situation. So why is Irina presented here as angelic? Well, I've put her here as angelic because I suspect that she is trying to live up to the approval of the mother. Okay, so she's trying to be approving to, gain the love and the approval of the mother. So in order to do that, she has to reject the father. Okay, so she has to reject her own father in order to have the connection from her mother. And, when a woman has a baby, it's a really quite, it's a very emotional time in her life. It's a very hormonal time in her life, but it's also very much about learning about some of the things that your own life it hasn't been solved around or healed around. So I suspect that Irina has some kind of funny old dynamic between her and her mother that isn't resolved, and it's coming up in her own dynamic between herself and her own child. Okay, so it's that emotional connection, that emotional bond. And she thinks in order to have that emotional bond, she has to shut her father out, I suspect. Okay, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. Now, Andre, I've presented here, even though he's an adult, as this kind of child-like person. It's kind of, and it's almost to say he doesn't know. He's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. He's looking for direction. So I suspect, again, from his mother, it's that whole, I'll look for direction. What's the direction here? I haven't been given any, particularly, other than I have to leave in January. And so what's happening for Nick? Well, he's presented here as behind bars, feeling that he's rattling at something, that when no one's listening, no one can hear him, and he's still being punished. He's still being punished, even though the divorce was 16 years ago. So clearly the ex-wife bears a huge grudge. So let's have a look, and is trying, very hard, in a very strong way, to try and keep Nick completely isolated from any form of connection. Okay, as this continual punishment. Now this has a big punishment feel over it, this relationship dynamic. Now this kind of thing can happen to us in our lives, which is we feel punished by someone over a long period of time, and they may not actually say it, but you can feel the undertone of that punishment over a long period of time, and especially for a sensitive, that feels really quite impactful and soul destroying. And I suspect that this is what Nick is feeling, because this punishment is hard from the female line. So this punishment is hard from Irina, where he's going to be feeling this the strongest, and that it's more so from the female than it is from the male energy. Now we can feel that as this particular dynamic, but we can have a look to see how that relates. Okay, so let's see, because I suspect Irina is the one where this energy is the strongest. So let's have a look to see what she's up to. Okay, what is she up to in terms of her relationship with her father? Nick is at life code 6. So I've got the archetypes upside down, and I'm thinking of Irina as I choose and place that into that 9 vibration. Okay, interesting. So we have the addict. What's this about then? This will be interesting. So we'll have a look. Now, as a life code 9 anyway, life code 9s reflect the unconscious, the subconscious, and quite often in family dynamics they reflect the what's hidden, the family secret, the family darker frequency vibration that's around certain things. Okay, so Irina's going to reflect that at some level or another, but we'll have a little look and deeper moment as to what she's actually reflecting as far as that's concerned, even if maybe the addiction is a rejection of her father, because it's become a habit, it's become something that she can't get out of because it's been entrenched there for so long. Maybe it's just a habit that she's got into of this rejection, and she's not actually thinking for herself because she's trying to gain the approval of the mother. So let's have a look to see what Andre is up to. Let's see what he's up to as far as his relationship with his father is concerned. So I'm thinking of Andre now. Okay, so we have the student. Interesting. So he gets kind of pulled. A student doesn't know. Okay, they're new to something. The student energy means that they're new to something. They don't know, they don't understand. They're kind of quite innocent on things because they're studying, they're learning. So they're inexperienced. So what Andre is being swayed in whatever direction he feels he should be swayed in. Okay, so I suspect if Nick is a little bit clearer and a little bit stronger with Andre, he can actually get some answers as far as this relationship dynamic is concerned. So instead of what he's actually done, which is to say, my relationship I thought was on the upswing, has deteriorated. My daughter gave birth. She shut me and my entire family out of seeing the child. Recently wrote to my daughter and son that step away from their relationship until they seek an honest and open communication. Well, Andre, he's kind of going, well, I don't know. I don't get any of this. So as far as open and honest communication is concerned, it's not going to come directly from him. Nick is going to have to be a little bit more clear and a little bit more confrontational as far as that's concerned, because Andre is being swept towards the mother's punishment. towards him, because he's not actually stepping into his own direction right now. He still hasn't gained enough. It's kind of, oh, I don't know. So he finds himself swayed in whatever direction of whoever is the strongest character. Okay, so let's have a look. We'll have a look first, actually, and how Nick should perhaps approach the scenario as far as Andre is concerned in order to get better results. Okay, bearing in mind that we're looking at these actually quite independently at the moment. Let's have a look. So we've got the martyr. Okay, so how does Nick resolve this? Okay, so my question was, well, how does he address this situation? So Andre is doing as he's told. The martyr is everything about doing as he's told, thinking of doing the right thing, blah, 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 all along those lines. So Andre thinks he's doing the right thing by not communicating properly with his father. And his father, Nick, needs to, if he wants to solve that, needs to actually bring that up and say, well, what are you doing? Why are you sacrificing your relationship with me? What is it about? Why? Why are you doing this? Why don't you step up? What is it? What is it that you want from me? And that if he's a bit more, and he'll back off from him initially, but it's actually about finding this martyr and maybe even addressing it and saying, what is it that your mother said about me over these years that makes you so rejecting? What is it? What is it? What is it that you need me to talk about to put this right? Again, he'll try and back out as far as that's concerned. But I suspect if Nick is quite strong with that, eventually he will get some answers as far as his son is concerned, definitely, where they can then start to get this back on an even keel. So what's in the way of Nick being able to communicate this is all well and good, but what's in the way of Nick being able to say this? Why can't he say this right now? And it's a common thing as for everyone as a sensitive. It's like, oh God, we know what's the right thing to do, but we just can't do it because we might feel this loss. Well, he's got a loss already, feels a loss already. So what is it that he needs to kind of perhaps be aware of in himself as he tries to deal with this and tries to communicate this situation? So let's have a look. So I'm thinking, Nick. Okay, so it's the detective. So it's about getting to the bottom of things. Exactly that, which is he feels he doesn't want to delve too deep because he's uncertain of what he might find. Now, this isn't unusual in terms of everyone's life. Every point in our life, we are afraid of digging too deep in case we find something that we don't like about ourselves or we don't want to address, because as a sensitive, we all fear deeply this strong essence of confrontation. But I can tell you now that sometimes actually confronting that for ourselves, not necessarily as far as another person is concerned, but for ourselves, can help hugely in solving and reconciling and really solving and sorting something out. Which for Nick, this is an important dynamic that he'll want to solve. So it's about him becoming more confident with allowing himself to delve into that deeper area, especially with his relationship with his son is concerned. And I very strongly suspect that then can be really quite comfortably resolved. Now let's have a look as far as Irina is concerned, because this is the one that feels to me like the real issue. So this is the real issue. So let's have a look as to what that addict means. So we need to have a little look deeper as far as that's concerned. So let's have a little look. So again, I'm thinking of Irina. I'm asking, what does this addict mean? Okay, so we've got the lover. So she really is strong as far as that's concerned. Very defiant about that separation. That kind of defiance as far as that is. And this is, when you put these two together, that's the kind of love addict thing going on. What's a love addict? Well, a love addict is a codependent relationship. So what does codependent mean? It means feeding off another person, not being able to make your own decisions, through the fear of loss from the other person. So we can see very clearly why Irina is behaving like this towards her father is that she feels that if she has a good relationship with her father, somehow or another her mother is going to abandon her, and that's her big fear. Okay, that's her big fear. So how on earth does Nick start to address this, or to really kind of solve this? Okay, so let's have a look and see how he gets to start to tackle that 27th path as it crosses the 25th. This real dark soul kind of thing going on as far as a life lesson is concerned. How does he step beyond his daughter's codependent relationship with her mother that is based on, I'll love you if you reject your father? Awful, but very real in a lot of lives. So how can that energy be stepped over? Well, let's have a little look and see what some of those clues are, and how Nick can begin to solve that. Okay, so let's have a little look. I'm thinking about that, and let's see what we get. Okay, so we've got the athlete. So the athlete always suggests that it's something that moves really quite fast. It happens quite quickly and all of that kind of thing. But it's also about the athlete is, if you think about Olympians, it's about transcending what feels possible. It's about stepping over something, a limitation, something. It's about pushing something beyond where we think it's a limit, which is how an Olympian becomes an Olympian. So this is about personal willpower and his own strength in having to deal with this. This is a big thing that he'd have to really tackle it, but he'd have to feel that solving this situation is bigger than him. He'd have to be quite powerful with it. Then his daughter can see beyond this codependent relationship with her mother, and she can see then that actually her father loves her, and yeah, he's not going to hang back, and he's going to push hard, and he's going to push hard for that level of decency. But let's see if there is anything else where that shows, because currently, Nick feels that he can't, because he feels rejected, he feels worthless, he feels like he's of some kind of failure. But is he? Of course not. He's not a failure. But it's being presented in his children's minds that he is. And somehow or another, he's got to engage with himself and say, that's enough. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for this to carry on for 16 years. This level of manipulation over the children. It isn't fair. So let's have a look and see what else that he can place on top of that athlete to try and access this belief in himself that actually he's worthy of a decent relationship with his children, and that this past relationship, his ex-wife, doesn't have this right to continually place him as some kind of low order being that they're not allowed a decent relationship with. So let's have a little look. Okay, the hedonist. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that for a change, Nick needs to be a bit selfish and indulge and really go for it and say, no, I'm having this. I'm having this. And if he can find that within himself, I'm having a good relationship in spite of the mother's codependent scenario and the desire to isolate him, in spite of that he's having it. And he's not stepping back from it, and he's damn well having it. But that takes a lot of our own personal courage and our own personal power, and we've got to have a lot of will as far as that's concerned. So what is the lesson that we can take from this dynamic? Sometimes we don't have to take things the way that they are, and sometimes other people's codependent relationships actually have a dramatic impact on our own ability to interact with those same people. And in this scenario, codependence has won over, but we have to engage at a deeper level our own strengths to step over that, so that we find our own level of function rather than dysfunction that is ruling this situation, where this man is being isolated from deeper connection with his own children and his grandchildren. For more great free content designed to support your purchase of my book, Highly Intuitive People, 7 Right Brain Traits to Change the Lives of Intuitive Sensitive People, please visit finallyfeelunderstood.com. There you can subscribe and download for free the meditation specific to today's episode. If you have already read the book, then it's time for you to receive exclusive access and support from me and your fellow intuitive sensitives as we go deeper together along this proven 7-step path by joining us in my monthly membership program called Heidi's Circle. There you can ask me anything in a safe and private environment, and I will answer you live. Join us today by visiting healmyinnerworld.com.